What if the universe was never finished, but still writing itself in the dark? Mars glows under a velvet sky, its desert stretching silent beneath the weight of eternity. The red world turns slowly, untouched, a relic of both promise and loss. Above it, stars burn like ancient witnesses. Yet among them, something unfamiliar drifts into view. A visitor, cold, silent, carrying no allegiance to the sun. It is 3I Atlas, an interstellar traveler born far beyond the boundaries of our solar system. Its presence is a fracture in the ordinary rhythm of the cosmos. It is not the first. ʻOumuamua passed before. Borisov followed. But this one lingers with questions that grow heavier with every calculation. And then, shadows multiply. Signals of new forms flicker at the edge of detection. Objects that seem to echo Atlas, appearing where none should be. Are these siblings, fragments, illusions, or something stranger? The instruments do not agree. The laws of motion strain under their weight. In the silence of the void, tension deepens. Is the universe opening a hidden chapter? Or are we facing a theater of anomalies that twist the framework of known physics? Each arrival tears at the veil of certainty. Each echo reminds us that science is not only a map of what we know, but also a mirror of what we fear to admit. When an interstellar traveler arrives, it does not come alone. It awakens questions that reach beyond stars, beyond theories, into the marrow of existence itself. In the quiet ledger of cosmic history, the solar system has been more fortress than crossroads. Planets circle faithfully, comets wander along predictable ellipses, and asteroids scatter in familiar belts. For billions of years, the drama has remained largely internal. Yet once in a rare while, the deep void beyond the sun's dominion sends a stranger through the gates. The first came in 2017, ʻOumuamua, the messenger. A fragment from another star system, slender and tumbling, rushing past faster than any comet ever catalogued. For weeks it haunted astronomers. It brightened and dimmed in ways no ordinary rock should. Its path bent subtly, as though pushed by invisible hands. Some whispered radiation pressure. Others spoke cautiously of artificial sails. In the end, it escaped into the black, leaving more questions than answers. 2 years later, another visitor arrived. Borisov, a comet in exile. Unlike ʻOumuamua, it carried the signatures of ice and dust. A more familiar traveler, yet still a wanderer from beyond. Telescopes tracked its coma stretching vast, its tail dissolving into starlight. Borisov reminded astronomers that interstellar visitors could bear resemblance to the comets of home. Yet its very presence confirmed that such crossings were not rare accidents, but part of a deeper, unseen traffic across the galaxy. And then a third, 3I Atlas. The designation carried weight, the third interstellar object known to science. Detected by the Atlas survey in Hawaii, its signal at first seemed faint, a blur on a long exposure. But orbital simulations quickly told another story. This was no comet bound to the sun. Its trajectory revealed an origin from the abyss between stars. A true interstellar voyager. Yet unlike its predecessors, Atlas carried a strangeness that unsettled even the most seasoned astronomers. Where ʻOumuamua was enigmatic and Borisov was almost familiar, Atlas was unstable. Its light curve flickered irregularly, as though its surface was breaking apart or reshaping in silence. One night it glowed brighter than predicted, the next it dimmed to near invisibility. Photons betrayed a story of turbulence, but not one easily written into equations. Telescopes turned their gaze with urgency. Pan-STARRS in Hawaii, the Hale telescope in California. Instruments across Europe and Asia joined the chase. Each night they traced its faint trail against the backdrop of constellations. Computers ran thousands of orbital simulations, each adjusting mass, spin, albedo. Yet the results defied harmony. Atlas refused to fit into the neat geometry of celestial mechanics. Its orbit bent unpredictably, as though nudged by forces unseen. At first, predictions painted a quiet passage, a swift arc through the solar system, another silent farewell. but refinements shifted the story. Calculations began to show a trajectory curling toward Mars. Not a collision, but a close encounter. A brush with the red planet, a stage where history and myth already intertwine. This revelation stirred unease. For centuries, Mars has been humanity's mirror, god of war, symbol of longing, and now frontier of exploration. That an interstellar traveler would cross so near felt less like coincidence and more like narrative. Astronomers, bound by data yet aware of poetry, could not ignore the symbolism. As weeks passed, anomalies multiplied. The brightness variations grew sharper. Dust tails expected in comets were inconsistent. Sometimes Atlas bore a faint streamer, other times none at all. Its nucleus seemed too unstable, perhaps fracturing, perhaps splitting into unseen companions. In radio spectra, subtle irregularities whispered of activity not easily explained by sublimating ice alone. Speculation grew bolder. Was Atlas a shard of something larger, a fragment torn from a greater body beyond our reach? What if its instability was not weakness, but sign of an origin more exotic than ice and stone? Could it be composed of materials forged in the furnace of another sun, carrying chemical stories alien to our system? Astronomers published hurried notes on Arquequo. Some warned of overinterpretation. Others leaned into the mystery, hinting that Atlas seemed less solitary with each observation, as if something lingered in its shadow. Perhaps fragments shed during its journey. Perhaps companions hidden in the glare of the stars. Or perhaps, more unsettling, that reality itself was giving birth to echoes, anomalies multiplying at the edge of perception. Mars turned slowly on its axis, waiting in the cold. Its canyons carved deep by vanished rivers, its polar caps gleaming under a distant sun. Soon, Atlas would pass near this barren world, drawing the eyes of both telescope and imagination. For scientists, it was an opportunity, a chance to observe an interstellar traveler under the sharp instruments orbiting Mars. For dreamers, it was an omen, a reminder that the universe does not send strangers without purpose. And so, the question deepened. What is Atlas? When the first interstellar visitor arrived, it seemed singular. When the second came, it confirmed a pattern. But with the third, something shifted. 3 points define a trajectory. 3 voices form a chorus. Atlas did not arrive alone in meaning. It carried with it the growing sense that the solar system is less an island and more a port of call. In the end, it was not only a body of ice and dust moving silently through the void. It was a messenger of disquiet. A signal that the story of interstellar objects is not about rarity, but inevitability. The galaxy is not empty. It is restless. And now, through the faint shimmer of Atlas near Mars, humanity confronts the possibility that visitors will keep arriving, each stranger than the last, until the question of solitude itself begins to fracture. The story of Three-Eye Atlas was never meant to be simple. At first, astronomers thought they had captured the faint trail of a solitary traveler, a lone interstellar body cutting across the solar system's stage. But night after night, as more instruments turned their gaze, the story began to fracture. What should have been one object seemed at times to be many. The first hints arrived quietly. Pan-STARRS, the pair of survey telescopes atop Haleakala in Hawaii, tracked Atlas against the Milky Way's crowded backdrop. Astronomers noticed subtle shifts in the light profile, as if a companion faintly trailed in its shadow. The data could have been dismissed as noise, but the pattern returned in subsequent frames. What had looked like a single point of light sometimes seemed stretched, blurred, or doubled. Soon the reports multiplied. Hubble's instruments, with their unmatched clarity, caught whispers of faint streaks surrounding Atlas. The signatures were inconsistent, sometimes sharp, sometimes vanishing into nothing. At times they resembled fragments cast off from a comet's nucleus, tumbling and dispersing. At other times they appeared too stable, too deliberate in their alignment. Then came Sora, the suborbital radar array, tuned to track debris and fast-moving objects near Earth. Its detections raised eyebrows. Echoes returned not of a single coherent body, but of multiple reflectors, clustered yet distinct, as though a small formation was threading through the void. Analysts ran and reran their simulations, but no calibration error could explain the consistency. The signals were real. Something near Atlas was multiplying. Astronomers began to ask, what exactly were they seeing? Fragmentation was one explanation. Interstellar objects, like comets, are fragile, often fractured by heat and tidal forces as they cross between stars. ʻOumuamua's strange light variation suggested it was a shard of something larger. 2I Borisov shed fragments as sunlight tore gases from its icy surface. Atlas, unstable from the start, might simply be breaking apart, shedding companions into a widening stream. Yet the data resisted certainty. Some of the supposed fragments did not behave as fragments should. Their brightness did not fade as quickly as expected. Their relative positions shifted too little, as though maintaining coherence rather than scattering outward. A darker possibility began to emerge. What if these companions were not fragments at all, but independent bodies, each on its own trajectory through the solar system? Arriving together as a swarm, the notion defied the intuition of isolation. Interstellar travel is harsh and vast. For one body to arrive is rare enough. For several to cross paths at the same moment borders on impossibility. Yet, science reminds us that probability is not the same as certainty. Stars form in clusters. Planets are born in disks. Debris fields scatter across galaxies. What if 3I Atlas was not alone, but part of a convoy cast adrift by forces unseen? Theoretical physicists began revisiting Einstein's relativity, searching for frameworks to explain such anomalies. Space-time, after all, is not a static backdrop. It bends, flexes, and distorts under gravity. Massive bodies act as lenses, focusing light, curving trajectories, sometimes pulling travelers into invisible alignments. Could it be that gravitational fields between stars had sculpted a corridor, guiding not one but many bodies toward the sun's realm, a hidden stream of interstellar debris, focused by cosmic lensing, now bleeding into the solar system's boundaries? The possibility was unsettling. If true, then the solar system is not visited at random. It lies within a channel of celestial traffic, a pathway along which alien matter drifts, unseen until it crosses the reach of our telescopes. Atlas, in this view, would be only the first recognizable member of a larger migration. As days passed, the reports of anomalies grew bolder. Some observatories described faint smears, as though small clusters of light were separating from Atlas itself. Others spoke of sudden brightening, as if reflections from multiple bodies caught the sun in unison. Amateur astronomers began to speculate online, their blurred images feeding both skepticism and awe. The professional community, cautious yet restless, debated the data. Was this nothing more than the familiar tale of a comet breaking apart? Or was the universe showing something stranger? A structure of visitors, perhaps born together in another system, now unraveling across ours. The scale of the speculation pressed deeper. If a swarm was indeed passing through, how many objects might it contain? A handful, a dozen, hundreds. Each too faint to track individually, but together forming a cloud of interstellar debris threading past Mars, scattering through the asteroid belt, slipping back into the night. In whispered conversations, some theorists asked a still more difficult question. What if the clustering was not entirely natural? Could interstellar objects be shepherded by dynamics we do not yet understand? Perhaps guided by gravitational resonances across light years, or even by unknown physics hidden within space-time itself. The imagery became poetic, even haunting. A lone traveler had become a chorus of shadows. The silence of the void now carried echoes, as though Atlas had awakened companions concealed within the fabric of space. Each detection pulled astronomy closer to the edge of certainty, where science meets philosophy and the unknown stares back. Mars, turning patiently in its orbit, waited near the calculated path. Soon, orbiters and rovers would rise as witnesses. The red planet would become a stage where these visitors might reveal their nature under closer scrutiny. Were they fragments dissolving into dust, or a caravan from afar, a cosmic accident, or a cosmic message? No single observation could yet decide. What remained was a sense of profound unease. For centuries, humanity has gazed at the skies, imagining visitors from beyond. Now, in the quiet data of telescopes, there appeared the first hints that such visitors do not always arrive alone. Atlas, once thought a solitary enigma, had become something else. A signpost, a reminder that the universe is not finished with its revelations. Its companions, whether shard, swarm, or illusion, deepened the mystery rather than resolved it. And so the question lingers. What is crossing the threshold of the solar system? A single fragile traveler, or the first ripple of something vaster, threading silently through the night? The answer, for now, lies hidden in shadows. But each flicker of light, each anomaly captured in the patient eyes of telescopes, whispers the same unsettling truth. The universe is far less solitary than once believed. Science thrives on patterns. For centuries, humanity has looked to the stars, not only in wonder but in pursuit of rules. Kepler found order in the ellipses of planets. Newton captured the fall of an apple and the dance of the moon in the same equation. Einstein bent time itself into a fabric that explained the orbit of Mercury and the bending of starlight. Each breakthrough offered a structure, a way to fold mystery into understanding. But with 3i Atlas, that structure began to buckle. The object was never stable, never obedient to prediction. Its brightness changed without rhythm, as though its surface and core obeyed laws unfamiliar to ice or rock. When telescopes recorded companions near it, faint shadows that multiplied and faded, scientists reached for models. They asked, could this be nothing more than fragmentation in principle? The mathematics existed. Comets fragment as volatile ices sublimate, peeling away under solar radiation. The stress of rotation or tidal forces can split them into families of shards. Equations describe how fragments diverge, how their brightness should decline, how dust should spread into tails. But when these models were pressed against the data from Atlas, they fit like broken glass. Some fragments dim too slowly. Others seem to maintain formation, moving with a coherence at odds with randomness. Instead of clarity, the equations returned contradiction. Another explanation emerged: gravitational interaction. As Atlas curved inward, its path drew it toward Mars. Gravity is a sculptor, able to bend trajectories, to scatter swarms, to focus debris into clusters. Simulations tested the possibility that Mars, with its thin atmosphere and ancient scars, could be shaping the fragments into patterns of resonance. Yet even here, the math stumbled. The anomalies appeared too early, too far from the planet, as though gravity's hand had reached farther than it should. Solar radiation offered another candidate. The pressure of photons, the constant breath of sunlight, can nudge fragile bodies, altering orbits subtly but steadily. This effect, known as non-gravitational acceleration, was suspected in ʻOumuamua's odd course. Could the same invisible push be weaving Atlas into confusion? Scientists attempted to account for it, adjusting parameters in their models, but the results spiraled into noise. The fragments were not drifting outward as they should. Some held together. Some seemed to appear and vanish. Radiation pressure could not tell the whole story. As theories faltered, the echoes of an older warning returned. Stephen Hawking, in his final years, spoke often of caution in the face of cosmic unknowns. He warned that humanity should be wary of signals, wary of assuming that what arrives from the stars is benign. While Atlas bore no evidence of intention, the unease Hawking voiced seemed to hover at the edges of the debate. What if the universe does not reveal itself only through natural law? What if visitors carry with them truths too alien for current frameworks to contain? The deeper scientists looked, the more fragile certainty became. Measuring interstellar debris is a task fraught with difficulty. These objects are faint, moving swiftly against a backdrop of stars. Even with the world's largest telescopes, exposures blur into streaks, photons lost to atmospheric turbulence, detectors pushed to their limits. One observatory might report 2 companions, another 3, another none at all. The differences were not dishonesty, but the inevitable fracture of truth when stretched across the limits of vision. Conflict grew in the data itself. Pan-STARRS reported irregular trails consistent with multiple bodies. Hubble, sharper but constrained by its schedule, captured ambiguous streaks that could be fragments or simply stars grazing the frame. SORA, sensitive to radar reflections, suggested clustered echoes, perhaps debris, perhaps error. Each dataset told a different story. Together, they formed a chorus of contradiction. The community began to divide. Some clung to natural explanations. To them, Atlas was a comet unraveling under forces we already understood. Fragmentation, sublimation, dust dynamics, complicated, yes, but still within the realm of the familiar. Anomalies, they argued, were artifacts of imperfect measurement, not signs of physics unraveling. Others were less certain. They saw the mismatched reports not as noise but as signal, the universe whispering something unfamiliar. To them, the anomalies hinted at a phenomenon not yet charted, perhaps a cluster of interstellar debris bound by origins we cannot trace. Perhaps resonances shaped by forces deeper than gravity alone. Perhaps even distortions of space-time itself. The debate spilled into papers, into hurried submissions to Arxiv, into late-night sessions where teams cross-checked observations with uneasy intensity. Words like anomalous, unexplained, and inconsistent began to appear with greater frequency. For a field rooted in precision, such words carry weight. They mark the places where knowledge frays. Meanwhile, simulations grew frantic. Supercomputers ran models of fragmentation under solar stress, of gravitational lensing by Mars, of radiation pressure over time, yet the results never converged. Instead, they splintered, each outcome diverging, each possibility only partially aligned with what the telescopes recorded. Like Atlas itself, the models multiplied into uncertainty, and with uncertainty came reflection. The universe has never promised to be simple. It has time and again revealed truths that strain human imagination. Black holes that evaporate, particles that vanish into quantum foam, galaxies bound by invisible dark matter. Atlas and the shadows near it seemed another such revelation. A reminder that the universe is not obliged to obey the limits of human expectation. In this fracture between explanation and anomaly, attention deepened. Was Atlas a failing comet, dissolving into dust before the eyes of telescopes? Or was it something stranger? A body accompanied not by fragments, but by companions too faint to classify, too alien to define. Science stood at the edge of its maps, staring into the uncharted. And in that silence, the words of Hawking seemed less like warning and more like prophecy. The universe is not obliged to make sense to you. Atlas, and whatever followed it, was not just a body of ice and stone. It was a challenge, a test of how far models could stretch before breaking, a reminder that knowledge itself is provisional, that certainty is fragile, that the cosmos holds chapters not yet written. And so, the scientific community stood divided. One side clung to the known, to fragmentation, to radiation, to gravity. The other leaned into the unknown, daring to whisper that something more profound might be unfolding. Between them lay Atlas, silent, multiplying, refusing to yield its truth. In that silence, the strain grew heavier. Not the strain of mathematics, nor of instruments, but of perspective itself. For perhaps the greatest discovery hidden in Atlas is not what it is, but what it demands. That science, like the universe it studies, must remain unfinished. The arrival of Three-Eye Atlas and its strange companions ignited not only observation but imagination. Where instruments faltered, speculation took root. Where data left fractures, theories multiplied, stretching across the fabric of science and into the realm of philosophy. One idea looked backward, deep into time and distance. Perhaps Atlas was a fragment of violence, a survivor of an ancient interstellar collision. Across the galaxy, stars are born in crowded nurseries where gravitational tides pull newborn planets into chaotic orbits. Collisions are inevitable. Worlds may shatter, moons may be torn apart, comets may be flung outward like embers from a fire. Atlas could be one such ember, a shard cast adrift millions of years ago, now drifting across the gulf between stars until fate aligned it with our sun. Its irregular brightness and unstable form could bear the scars of that primordial catastrophe, a cosmic fossil carrying silent testimony of destruction far beyond human memory. Others reached for stranger possibilities. ʻOumuamua had already inspired whispers of artificial design, a slender body behaving in ways no natural object easily could. What if Atlas too was not entirely natural? What if its companions were not mere fragments but debris from something once vast, a structure built by an intelligence long extinguished? The thought was unsettling, almost heretical, yet it lingered. For even the most skeptical acknowledged that the galaxy is ancient, that civilizations could have risen and fallen before Earth was born. A fragment of a megastructure wandering interstellar space would appear to us as nothing more than dust and rock, until its peculiar behavior betrayed its origin. A less sensational, but no less profound hypothesis envisioned Atlas as part of a natural convoy. Stars when young cast out swarms of comets and planetesimals. Some are captured by other systems, others are flung into the dark interstellar medium. Over billions of years, these exiles may travel together, bound not by gravity but by common origin, scattered across the void yet following similar paths. Atlas in this view is not alone because it never was. It is one among many, fragments of a stellar nursery long since dispersed, arriving here not as a single messenger, but as a chorus of the galaxy's restless memory. Into these scientific frameworks slipped a more radical speculation: panspermia. Life on Earth, some argue, may not have begun here at all, but could have arrived carried by comets or interstellar grains of dust. If so, then each visitor from beyond is not only a body of stone and ice, but a possible vessel of biology. Could Atlas, in its instability, be releasing molecular seeds into the solar system? Could it carry amino acids forged under the chemistry of another sun? Could its dust, scattered into the Martian atmosphere, plant whispers of alien potential? The idea is not without precedent. Complex organics have been found on comets within our own system. Meteorites arriving on Earth have carried amino acids, the raw materials of life. To imagine Atlas bearing such chemistry across light years is not fantasy, but extension. It is the possibility that life itself may be a traveler, and interstellar objects are its ships. Still, the mystery deepened beyond biology and stone. Some theorists dared to invoke quantum philosophy. The act of observation, they argued, is never passive. In the realm of the very small, particles shift and blur until measurement defines them. Could it be that interstellar objects, faint and distant, inhabit a similar uncertainty? The more instruments searched for companions around Atlas, the more companions seemed to appear. Could the universe itself be responding to the gaze of telescopes, multiplying answers as quickly as questions? The speculation was poetic, perhaps untestable, yet it touched a chord. For science, at its edges, often stares into mirrors as much as into lenses. As theories multiplied, one thread bound them all. Atlas was a question disguised as an object. A body of dust and ice, perhaps, but also a catalyst for reflection. Was it debris of collision, a relic of destruction? Was it an echo of intelligence, a shard of construction? Was it a convoy from a distant nursery, or a carrier of life's chemistry? Was it a phenomenon shaped by the very act of human observation? Each possibility bent the imagination wider. Each added weight to the sense that the universe is not content with single answers. Instead, it offers multiplicity, layering truth with ambiguity, refusing to resolve mystery into simplicity. The reflections turned philosophical. Perhaps the universe itself is a storyteller, one that writes not with words but with anomalies. Each visitor, ʻOumuamua, Borisov, Atlas, is a chapter. Each chapter does not close the book, but opens more pages. The questions multiply, not because answers are absent, but because answers are vast, sprawling beyond the edges of comprehension. And so, Atlas becomes more than an interstellar object. It becomes a symbol, a reminder that the cosmos is both archive and stage. It preserves collisions from forgotten epochs, scatters debris from vanished systems, and perhaps carries the chemical signatures of life across unthinkable distances. It presents itself not as a puzzle to be solved once, but as a mirror in which humanity sees both its curiosity and its limits. The scientific papers, dense with equations and simulations, reveal one kind of truth. The speculations whispered across observatories, conferences, and late-night discussions reveal another. Together they weave a tapestry of wonder and unease. The universe, it seems, is not a place where certainty is given. It is a place where every answer unfurls into more questions, where discovery is never an end, but always a beginning. Atlas, fragile and faint, carries this lesson. That mystery is not a flaw in knowledge, but the essence of it. That to encounter the unknown is to be reminded that the cosmos is alive with possibility. That in the silence between stars, objects travel not only with mass and velocity, but with stories. And perhaps the greatest truth is this: the universe is not a riddle to be solved once and for all. It is a dialogue, a conversation stretching across light years and epochs. Each interstellar visitor is a voice in that dialogue. Each anomaly is a question asked in a language older than humanity itself. Atlas has spoken, though in silence. Its companions, real or illusory, have joined the chorus, and what they say is simple yet profound. The universe is not finished. It is still unfolding. And in its unfolding, the number of questions will always exceed the number of answers. Mars turns slowly beneath a pale sun, a world of rust and silence. Its deserts stretch endlessly, sculpted by winds that have blown for millions of years. Canyons split its surface with scars deep enough to swallow mountains whole. Its polar caps glisten with ice, shrinking and swelling in rhythm with the seasons of a world that no longer breathes. In the cold, thin air, echoes of vanished rivers remain carved into stone, a memory of an age when Mars was alive with oceans and storms. For as long as humanity has looked skyward, Mars has been more than a planet. To the ancients, it was a wandering star, the god of war, a red spark that burned with the promise of conflict. In mythology, it was a harbinger of unrest, a sign that battles would come. Later, in the telescopes of the 19th century, Mars became a canvas for imagination. Channels, some believed, were carved by civilizations. Shadows across its surface were interpreted as cities, forests, empires waiting to be found. Even as science stripped away those illusions, fascination never faded. Mars remained a mirror, reflecting both fear and longing, both destruction and hope. Now it stands again at the center of attention, not for what it holds, but for what it will witness. The trajectory of 3I Atlas, the interstellar traveler, bends toward the orbit of Mars, not to collide, not to claim the planet, but to pass close enough that Mars will become the stage of encounter. For the first time, an interstellar object may be studied against the backdrop of another world. Astronomers run simulations, their computers filled with numbers that hint at possibilities. If Atlas continues to fragment, pieces may scatter like sparks. Some may fall toward the Martian atmosphere. At such speeds, even the smallest fragment would strike with catastrophic force, releasing energy far beyond its size. The thin air of Mars could ignite trails of fire, brief but unforgettable, etching luminous scars across the night sky above its barren plains. Larger pieces might reach the surface, carving craters into its red deserts. Mars is already covered in wounds, reminders of impacts from ages past. Yet to bear the mark of an interstellar traveler would be something new, something profound. Other simulations show subtler interactions. Mars, with its gravity, might not be struck, but could still reshape the fragments' paths. Its invisible hand might scatter them, bending their trajectories into new patterns, pulling some inward while flinging others outward toward the asteroid belt. In this way, Mars would not be merely a spectator, but a quiet participant, guiding Atlas through its silent passage. The thought is unsettling, for Mars is not only a planet, it is humanity's frontier, the next great step in exploration. Orbiters circle its skies, rovers crawl across its surface, probes send back whispers of dust and wind, of frost forming in the dawn. To imagine an interstellar visitor crossing paths with this world is to merge myth with science, poetry with data. Mars becomes both a sentinel and a witness, standing guard at the threshold between the familiar solar system and the uncharted beyond. Some scientists ask whether Atlas could scar Mars again with interstellar fire. The planet has endured great cataclysms before. Billions of years ago, an impact nearly tore its crust apart, forming the vast basin of Hellas. Asteroids have pummeled its surface, leaving craters larger than continents. If Atlas were to fracture in just the wrong way, Mars might once again bear a wound. One unlike any it has carried before, a wound born not of local chaos, but of forces arriving from another star. Others see a more symbolic meaning. Mars has always been linked to conflict, to endings, to the balance between survival and destruction. That Atlas would pass near it seems almost too fitting, as though the universe itself is staging a performance, placing its visitor alongside the planet most deeply etched into human imagination. The alignment carries no intention, no purpose, yet it feels like narrative. Mars, the red sentinel, watching as an interstellar traveler sweeps past. Images from orbiters sharpen this anticipation. The thin atmosphere glows faint at sunrise. Dust storms creep across plains that stretch beyond the horizon. Rovers sit still, their cameras angled toward skies that may soon carry light from another world. If fragments of Atlas do graze the Martian atmosphere, they could become streaks of fire unlike anything Earth has seen, messages written in alien stone, burning briefly and fading into memory. Instruments already in place could record such moments, turning Mars into the first stage where humanity studies an interstellar object from near at hand. Beyond science, the symbolism deepens. Mars is the planet humanity has long dreamed of stepping onto. To see it touched, even indirectly, by matter from beyond the solar system is to feel the merging of two great frontiers, the exploration of our neighbor and the encounter with visitors from the stars. Together, they remind us that the universe is not divided into neat chapters. The local and the interstellar are threads of the same vast tapestry. Philosophers of old spoke of Mars as omen, as warbringer, as a sign of fate. Modern science replaces omens with probabilities, yet cannot erase the weight of symbolism. Atlas passing near does not bring war, but it does bring tension, the tension of uncertainty, of forces that elude explanation. Mars in its silence becomes the witness, holding that tension without voice, without judgment. Perhaps in ages to come, when humanity sets foot upon its surface, explorers will stand in deserts still marked by faint traces of Atlas. Perhaps they will find craters carved not by asteroids born of this system, but by fragments that traveled for millions of years through interstellar night. In that moment, Mars will not only be a world of redstone and dust, it will be a monument carrying on its body the memory of encounters too vast for human history to contain. For now, it waits. turning, patient, unmoving in its role. The red sentinel, the silent witness, watching as a traveler from the abyss approaches, watching as fragments flicker like ghosts at the edge of vision, watching, as it has for billions of years, as the universe writes yet another chapter upon its scarred and ancient face. Mars does not speak. It does not choose. But in its silence, it reflects the truth of the cosmos, that worlds are not merely places, they are witnesses. That planets, like humans, carry scars of what has passed. That in the endless unfolding of the universe, even silence has meaning. And as 3i Atlas draws nearer, the sense grows heavier. Mars will not intervene. It will not resist. It will simply watch, as it always has, as visitors sweep past, leaving mysteries in their wake. And in its silence, the red world will remind us of our place, not as masters of the cosmos, but as witnesses ourselves. Watching, waiting, trying to read the language of the stars. At first it was one, then it was a handful. Now it is more than astronomers dare to count. What began as a faint trail of 3i Atlas drifting across the solar system has become something else entirely. Reports now speak not of a solitary visitor, nor even of a few companions, but of a widening arc of anomalies. Objects faint as whispers, their signals fleeting, appear and vanish in data. Some streak across frames like distant meteors. Others linger, fixed for a moment, then dissolve back into darkness. They are not confined to the immediate vicinity of Atlas. They are appearing in wider sweeps of sky, as though the mystery is expanding outward. For scientists, the unease is sharpened by scale. It is one thing to study a single body, a fragment of ice or stone that drifts into the sun's dominion. It is another to confront a multiplication without clear boundary. How many are there? 10, 100? 1,000? The question itself becomes slippery. Detection is shaped by instruments, by exposure times, by algorithms parsing noise. To count is to admit uncertainty. To classify is to confess that categories may no longer suffice. The philosophical weight deepens. What if not all can be seen? What if not all can be measured or named? Humanity is accustomed to order. Comets have families. Asteroids have belts. Stars have catalogs. But here perhaps is something that resists. A phenomenon not reducible to a tidy list, but expanding faster than the frameworks designed to hold it. Some reach for metaphors. They turn to the very birth of the cosmos, to the moment of inflation. In the first fraction of a second after the Big Bang, the universe is thought to have expanded at unimaginable speed, space itself doubling again and again, scattering matter and light into an ever-growing horizon. Perhaps, they suggest, what telescopes now see in Atlas is a reflection of that primal chaos, a microcosm of cosmic inflation, a reminder that the universe does not only grow in size, but also in mystery. Yet metaphors are not measurements. Instruments must still strain against the void, and the void is unforgiving. The James Webb Space Telescope, stationed beyond the reach of Earth's atmosphere, has turned its mirrors toward the phenomenon. Webb's infrared eyes see deeper than most, capturing faint signatures of dust and ice that other observatories miss. Its data reveal more anomalies, more faint trails, stretching farther than expected. But Webb too faces limits. Its schedule is shared among countless programs. Its vision, though vast, is not infinite. On Earth, ground-based arrays attempt to fill the gaps. Pan-STARRS, Vera Rubin Observatory, and a network of smaller telescopes scan nightly skies. Their cameras fill with torrents of images, more than human eyes can process. Artificial intelligence is drafted into service. Algorithms trained to sift anomalies from background stars to separate true detections from false. But the AI does not resolve the mystery. It amplifies it. The more it looks, the more it finds. The anomalies multiply like echoes, spreading across the night as though the act of searching summons them into being. The tension is not merely scientific. It is emotional, almost existential. Humanity, for all its progress, stands fragile before such expansion. Centuries of astronomy have given names to planets, moons, galaxies, clusters. Yet here, in the arrival of Atlas and its companions, knowledge feels brittle. The unknown is not shrinking, as many once believed, but swelling. Each discovery adds not certainty, but weight. Each detection reminds that understanding is provisional, subject to collapse when the universe reveals a deeper layer. Some astronomers confess privately what they hesitate to publish, that the sky feels different now. Not in light, not in motion, but in mood. To gaze upon it is to sense a presence less charted, more restless. An awareness grows that perhaps the solar system is not a fortress at all, but a porous stage upon which the galaxy writes its unfinished play. Speculations race to keep pace. Are these multiplying bodies fragments torn from Atlas in silence? Are they companions, born together in some distant system, now arriving as a convoy? Or are they something stranger, structures of dust and stone shaped by forces not yet defined? No answer holds long before another anomaly appears, another count dissolves, and so the comparisons deepen. Just as the cosmos expanded in its birth, so too does mystery expand now. Just as the early universe stretched beyond what could ever be observed, so too does the tally of anomalies stretch beyond what can be named. Human knowledge is left standing in the wake, humbled by scale, by uncertainty, by the reminder that discovery does not always bring order. Sometimes it brings only more questions. The instruments continue to watch. Webb peers through its golden mirrors. Ground telescopes sweep arcs of sky. AI parses pixels by the billions. Yet all return the same conclusion. The unknown is growing, not shrinking, not clarifying, expanding, and within that expansion lies a truth older than science. That knowledge itself is fragile. That certainty is fleeting. That the universe is not a puzzle solved once, but a mystery deepening with every answer. In this chapter of Atlas, humanity confronts not only an object, but a reflection of its own limits. The anomalies multiply like stars at dusk. The unknown spreads like dawn across the horizon. And in that spreading, a quiet reminder emerges that to search the cosmos is not to tame it. It is to witness its vastness, to stand before its silence, to admit, humbly, that even the brightest instruments, even the sharpest minds are but brief flickers against a mystery that expands faster than comprehension. The story of Three-Eye Atlas does not end with clarity. It ends with a horizon that recedes the closer it is approached. For all the instruments turned upon it, for all the equations bent to its path, what remains is not a final answer, but a silence. Mars turns beneath its pale skies, patient and unmoved, the red witness to a passage it cannot speak of. Around it, orbiters capture images, rovers listen to winds, telescopes record faint glimmers in the dark. Yet what they preserve is not certainty. It is mystery, framed in data, woven into graphs, but mystery all the same. And so humanity finds itself reflecting. What does it mean if interstellar objects can enter the solar system without warning, multiply in shadows, and then fade again into the abyss? What does it mean if the solar system is not an island, but a crossroads, where travelers pass unseen until chance or fortune reveals them? Perhaps humanity is not the observer of the cosmos, but only one among many who cross its stage. Spectators, yes, but also participants in a theater too vast to comprehend. Philosophical weight presses against the science. The appearance of Atlas and its companions is not only a question of astronomy. It is a question of perspective. For if anomalies can multiply beyond measure, if the count itself collapses into uncertainty, then what does that reveal of knowledge? That human frameworks are fragile. That certainty is provisional. That the cosmos does not fit inside the borders drawn around it. The reflection grows heavier. The stars do not answer. They do not explain their visitors. They do not whisper where Atlas was born, nor why its path carried it here, nor why companions flickered near it like ghosts. They remain silent, burning as they always have, older than the questions now spoken beneath them. In that silence lies a reminder, how little is known, and how vast remains unseen. Einstein once wrote that the mysterious is the source of all true science. It is not in certainty, but in wonder that discovery begins. Atlas has carried that truth more than any equations could. It has arrived not to be solved, but to be witnessed. Not to end questions, but to deepen them. It is a fragment of the unknown, entering, lingering, and then leaving humanity with awe sharpened by uncertainty. Images form in the imagination. Atlas drifting past Mars, a faint traveler brushing the orbit of a world long tied to myth. Its companions, real or illusion, scattering outward, fading into the gulf beyond the sun. They dissolve into infinity, leaving behind no monument but memory, no artifact but doubt, no gift but perspective, and in their wake, silence returns. But it is not emptiness. It is the silence of awe, of recognition, of a cosmos alive in ways yet unimagined. Humanity, small and fragile, is left humbled by that recognition. For the universe does not merely exist around human life. It moves through it, crossing paths, leaving shadows, stirring questions that stretch across generations. The interstellar visitor has passed, but the resonance remains. It remains in the telescope still searching the skies, in the theories whispered late at night, in the philosophical weight of knowing that the galaxy is restless. It remains in the reminder that life itself is a question still unfolding, and that each visitor is a line written in the language of mystery. Perhaps in centuries to come, more will arrive. Perhaps their trails will be brighter, their paths more direct, their mysteries more urgent. Or perhaps they will pass as Atlas has, quiet, unnoticed, leaving only faint traces for the few who looked closely. Either way, the message is the same. The cosmos is alive, not in the sense of breath and thought, but in the sense of movement, surprise, and unending depth. And so the story closes not with resolution, but with reverence. Free-Eye Atlas entered silently, carried its companions like shadows, drifted past Mars, and returned to the night. What it was remains uncertain. What it meant is undeniable. That the universe is not finished. That mystery is not weakness, but strength. That awe is not the absence of knowledge, but its beginning. In the silence of the cosmos, Atlas fades. But in the silence of humanity, awe remains. And in that awe, a haunting sense takes root. That the stars are far more alive than ever imagined.